that we saw across the whole spectrum, because there were a lot of media outlets that covered the Caitlin Clark thing, but you didn't see a whole lot of MSNBC and CNN really and truly. You see, I think a lot of Caitlin Clark fans are from the Midwest, from southern states, and I do believe, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, there's a lot of conservative fans that...
Reaction continues to build following recent comments from head coach Stephanie White, and the response has not been favorable. Rather than offering support toward Caitlin Clark, White instead chose to publicly back Alyssa Thomas, a player she previously coached, alongside Dana Bonner. The message she delivered came across clearly. She essentially communicated that fans of Clark aren't wanted within the league. Based on the media coverage surrounding the situation, a noticeable pattern emerged. Certain major outlets barely touched the story, while others ran heavily with it.
Fans that want to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball, and to a lesser extent, Sophie Cunningham now. Stephanie White does not want you to continue watching this league. And she comes right out and says, if you don't support their social activism and their social causes, they don't want you watching. Now,
much of Clark's fan base appears to come from the Midwest and southern regions, and a significant portion likely leans more conservative, drawn specifically to watching Clark, and to a lesser degree Sophie Cunningham, play. White's remarks suggested that continued viewership depends on aligning with the league's social causes and activism, implying that anyone unwilling to support that agenda isn't welcome as a viewer. That stance suggests activism has taken priority over actual revenue and audience numbers for the organization. The inability to separate personal loyalty to a former player from professional responsibility toward a current one has drawn heavy criticism.
What you watching? Now, it tells me they care more about their social activism than they do their actual bottom line and how much money they're making, and about their ratings. And the inability to set aside her ex-player and worry about her own player is just wild. It's wild.
Many viewers have pushed back strongly against the idea of identity politics being tied to sports viewership, arguing fans simply want to watch competition, nothing more, and shouldn't be labeled unfairly for objecting to political messaging. Despite ratings tripling recently, a large share of that new audience reportedly has no interest in the social messaging being pushed alongside the games. During a press conference, White addressed the incident involving Alyssa Thomas directly, calling the surrounding toxicity, including racist and homophobic rhetoric, completely unacceptable, while noting she believes most of that hostility originates from online spaces rather than from actual Fever or League fans. Reaction to this framing was swift, with many pointing out that new viewers are watching specifically because of Clark, openly supporting whichever team she plays for as long as it makes sound competitive decisions, while showing little interest in the accompanying social messaging.
Yeah, you're right, Stephanie White. A lot of us don't want to see identity politics. We don't. We don't care about your social act. Sports fans tune in to see sports. End of story. End of story. And we don't care to be called names because we don't want to see your social activism. We know where you politically stand, and we know where your social...
Commenters argued that now that they're tuning in, they've earned the right to voice opinions about what they're seeing, regardless of whether league officials appreciate that feedback. Many credited this new wave of general sports fans, people who also follow football, college sports, and baseball, as the actual driver behind the league's rising numbers, specifically because of Clark and Cunningham, explicitly distancing themselves from interest in other teams like the Liberty. White also spoke about people using the league and its players to push divisive agendas, calling that unacceptable, while stressing continued efforts toward protecting and supporting players across the league, acknowledging criticism naturally comes with competition and the complicated relationships fans develop with teams and players. She emphasized that being respectful isn't difficult, and suggested that anyone engaging in hateful behavior online shouldn't identify as a genuine fan of the league, describing the organization's core values as inclusiveness, competitive spirit, and the advancement of women and marginalized communities.
You know where your social causes lay. Y'all have made that very clear. We also have the right to say, you know what, we don't want to see it. Your viewership has tripled, and 2/3 of those viewers that showed up doesn't want to see it. How does that make you feel, Stephanie White? Or do you not realize that?
Before we start with questions, I just want to address, what's going on with AT. I think first and foremost, it's absolutely...
Reaction to that messaging was largely dismissive, with many saying they simply want to watch competitive basketball without additional social commentary attached, expressing frustration at feeling lectured, and insisting they have no intention of disengaging despite the rhetoric. Several pointed out that if that messaging genuinely mattered to longtime viewers, engagement would have already been high over the past 2 decades, arguing instead that new fans are again being told their support isn't wanted unless it comes with full ideological agreement. Commentary continued describing the organization as committed to maintaining high standards, staying ahead of shifting social norms, and supporting one another collectively across players, coaching staff, and support personnel.
It's absolutely unacceptable. I think as a league, as a whole, there's been so much more toxicity, racism, homophobia, straight out nonsense, hate nonsense. And it is absolutely unacceptable. Most of this coming from the online community. Most of this, in my heart of hearts, I believe, not coming from WNBA fans, Indiana Fever fans. I believe that this is...
Well, I can tell you this.
That phrasing drew mockery from some viewers questioning why competitive sports commentary had shifted toward broader social themes. White reiterated a focus on uplifting rather than demanding or continuing divisive narratives, though pushback continued regarding growing fan expectations for accountability. Reaction framed the coach's comments as essentially telling new fans they weren't wanted, sparking further political debate given the framing used.
The new fans watching are here for Caitlin Clark. I don't think a lot of people are even trying to hide that. All right, we are here to support whatever team that she's playing for, provided they make the right sports decisions. But we certainly don't care about your activism. We don't care about what boxes you check. We don't care about your agenda. And now that we are watching, we can be vocal.
Some pointed to differing media narratives, noting certain morning programs focused sympathetically on Alyssa Thomas's situation, while other outlets focused on defending Clark, suggesting the coverage split largely along political lines. Commenters acknowledged Clark's personal politics may not always align with certain audiences, but noted she rarely inserts political commentary into her public appearances compared to others associated with the league, framing the criticism toward White as predictable, given how her comments were phrased. Further discussion raised concerns about inconsistent treatment across the roster, specifically questioning why the coaching staff hadn't publicly addressed the ongoing online harassment, real-world threats, and stalking incidents directed at Sophie Cunningham, describing it as a clear example of selective attention within the organization.
And now that we are watching, we can be vocal about that. That is our right. Plain and simple. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to cry or not, whether you and the Indiana Fever and the WNBA want to try to stop people like me from talking, yeah, you've got a whole different section of fans that you have not had. It's the only reason you're getting ratings. It's you've got actual sports fans, guys like me.
Many argued Cunningham has faced significant racially charged hostility without much public acknowledgement or complaint from her, framing the league's broader cultural messaging as inconsistent with how it handles protecting all of its players equally. Criticism toward the coaching staff and front office intensified, with some calling for Clark and Cunningham to be traded to organizations perceived as more supportive, while acknowledging...
Say 10 days away, well, not even 10. Past that, we're about 8 days away from that date coming back around. In the month of June of 2025, Caitlin Clark was dealing with a groin injury. Now this year's a back injury. Now, I'm here to play devil's advocate. What if, this is just John Liquidator theory, what if Caitlin Clark's time really is up with the Indiana Fever? What if trades has possibly been negotiated? What if Caitlin is...
Some expressed frustration that reporters covering the team hadn't focused more directly on Clark's well-being following her injury, describing the coverage as insufficient. Discussion continued questioning coaching accountability, arguing team leadership should more visibly support all players rather than appearing selective, with growing calls from segments of the audience to disengage entirely from the league due to its cultural direction. Additional comments highlighted hostility directed at other players, including Marina Mabrey, arguing that selective outrage remains a recurring issue throughout the league's public messaging.
Is already kind of taking a stand to where, you know what? Y'all don't want to challenge my fouls. Y'all don't want to challenge my plays. Another year, I'll just do what I did last year. I'll just not play. Now, if she play in the All-Star game or come back before the All-Star game, well, I can't even say if she come back, because she might come back before the All-Star game. But if she plays in the All-Star game, then I will know definitively that Caitlin Clark will finish out the season.
Many viewers expressed that White's recent comments have damaged goodwill toward the Fever organization significantly, questioning how a conversation stemming from a player injury shifted so heavily toward defending an opposing player's public image instead. Some argued the entire situation reflects a broader disconnect between league messaging and general audience expectations, framing the coach's comments as alienating exactly the kind of viewership contributing most to recent growth, including audiences from more conservative or religious backgrounds who simply want to watch competitive basketball without additional commentary attached. Caitlin Clark will be sitting out today's matchup, and A'ja Wilson is also unavailable for this game.
If Caitlin Clark do not play in the All-Star game, now this is just a theory. This is my theory. If she don't play in the All-Star game, get ready. Get ready. I'm telling you what I know. Get ready. Now, with that being said, let's head on over to X. Check out some of the news that has come out, man, because I'm telling y'all, I believe this thing is deeper than we all think. This ain't no secret.
Meanwhile, discussion has been building around the Clark fan base, with a portion of supporters reportedly threatening to step away from following the season altogether. Much of this traces back to the ongoing friction involving head coach Stephanie White, layered on top of Clark's current injury situation and uncertainty about her return timeline. The pattern feels strikingly familiar to what unfolded the previous year.
No secret that Caitlin Clark feel the type of way about the Indiana Fever. Now, it's her job to speak nice about them. It's her job to say the right things in front of the camera. But no one knows what goes on behind the scenes. I can promise you that. I don't know. You don't know. They don't know. No, nobody know. Don't nobody know nothing what's going on behind the scenes in regards to Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Now, the status report came out yesterday for tomorrow's game.
Clark's final appearance of the 2025 season came on July 13th, meaning the current date sits roughly a week and a half out from that same mark. Back then, the issue was a groin problem. This time around, it's being described as a back injury. One line of speculation worth considering. Could Clark's future with the Fever organization actually be uncertain?
Game, which is today at the Las Vegas Aces. Caitlin Clark is out with what? That legendary back injury. And going back to Caitlin Clark back injury, not to toot my own horn, but last time Caitlin Clark played a basketball game, I was there in attendance. Now, everybody was saying she got benched. Everybody was saying Caitlin was benched. Ain't nobody want to listen to John Liquidator. I told y'all. I went back, looked the footage,
Could a trade conversation already be underway behind closed doors? Is it possible Clark has quietly reached a breaking point over how her fouls and physical treatment on the court have gone unaddressed, prompting a repeat of last season's pattern where she simply stopped taking the floor? One marker to watch is the upcoming All-Star game.
Look at the film. Caitlin Clark was late coming out the tunnel. Caitlin Clark went back to the game. Back to the locker room 2 times during that game. The second time she did not return. I knew then she was hurt. She was hurt. She was hella hurt. Now, ain't nobody gonna tell y'all that, hey, we jacked up. She was never benched. Ain't nobody gonna come on here and say that. Because it's been crickets with the whole bench conspiracy. They ain't benching Caitlin Clark 2 games.
If she sits that one out too, that would be a strong indicator something bigger is happening. This remains speculation rather than confirmed fact, but it's a theory worth tracking closely. Turning to social media reaction, there's a growing sense that this situation runs deeper than surface-level explanations suggest.
Clark 2 games back to back if she ain't hurt, y'all. Caitlin is hurt or dealing with something. Now, she could be hurt mentally or physically, but there's something there. Just saying. Just saying. I didn't jump on her. She was benched. But let's read some of these comments, man. Then we gonna get into what they said about Asia Wilson. One fan said, boo, wish they would tell us more about her back. Is it chronic or due to an injury?
It's widely understood that Clark holds some frustration toward how the Fever organization has handled things, even though she's expected to stay diplomatic in public statements. What happens away from cameras remains unknown to outside observers. Nobody outside the organization has real insight into those internal dynamics. The injury report released ahead of today's road game against the Las Vegas Aces lists Clark out with the back issue in question.
Back problems are not minor issues. Definitely not. Miss seeing her play. Definitely miss seeing her play. Somebody said, all I wanted this year was to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. I guess it was too much to ask for. I don't believe it was too much to ask for. I believe Stephanie White kind of, like, when you think about everything that has transpired, started the season till now, if Stephanie White might have challenged some of those calls early on, Stephanie White might...
Looking back at the last game Clark actually played, there was direct, in-person observation of what happened. Many claimed afterward that she had simply been benched, but a closer review of the game footage tells a different story. Clark returned late from a break in play, went back to the locker room twice during that outing, and did not return to the court following the second trip.